Hello everyone, my name is Keely. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. Today I am so excited because I am going to talk to you about my favorite books of 2023. These are going to be the 10 best books that I read this year, and I narrowed this list down from 58. I had 58 5 stars this year, which I am really happy with, but I was able to narrow it down to my 10 ultimate favorite books from this year, and some of these have actually made my favorite books of all time list, not just from 2023. So I'm so excited to talk about these books with you, and hopefully you've read them and loved them too, or if you haven't, hopefully this will inspire you to pick up some of these, and I really hope that you love them as much as I have. So of course we're going to start at number 10 and go all the way down to number 1. Coming in at number 10 we have Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I have always been a sucker for the dystopian genre, and I have been itching for a new world that I can fall in love with for many years now, and I picked up Scythe finally this year, and this was the perfect dystopian book that I was really looking for. So in this world, we have kind of defeated death. We have found all the cures to every kind of disease and illness, and people just aren't dying like they used to. Even of old age, you can kind of live forever at this point. But in order to control the population of the world so it doesn't get too overcrowded, there are these people called Scythes, and they go around and actually kill people off. So we follow Citron and Rowan, and they are two teenagers who have been chosen as apprentices to the Scythe. So they are learning how to become Scythes themselves, and this is a job that neither one of them want to do, which makes them perfect for the job. Because you don't want someone that's going to be super power hungry. You want someone who doesn't really want to do it, because then they are going to do the job right. So we follow them as they are learning how to be a Scythe and what it takes to kill off people and how to pick certain people to kill off. Once again, this is such a great dystopian world. I have loved Neal Shusterman's writing before, and he just does dystopian so well, and this did not disappoint. I really love Citra and Rowan as characters, and it was super fascinating to see how the Scythes work. Like, the person that they are working under, he is very calculating, but he takes his job very seriously. But then you do see some of the Scythes that are power hungry, and it's interesting how they go in different directions and the craziness that this world consists of, because they think it's a perfect world, but of course dystopian is not perfect. I can't wait to continue on with the series. I cannot believe that I haven't continued, because this was just the perfect dystopian that I've been looking for a while. Coming in at number 9, we have The Call by Peter O'Gillen. This is a book that I had heard of years and years ago, and this year when I was setting up my high school classroom for the first time, this was a book that was already in my classroom, and so I was like, you know what, might as well pick it up, because I remember hearing about it years ago, and I was so surprised by how much I loved this. So this book is more of Irish folklore, and it deals with the Fae. Now, if you know me, I hate the Fae, but in this description of them, it is more like the folklore storytelling, where the Fae are these nasty, despicable creatures, and in this world they have been banished kind of to the underworld, and humans have taken over their land. So now these Fae are trying to get back into the actual world and take back what was once theirs, and so every so often they will do the call on humans. So this is kind of a post-apocalyptic world as well, because we follow a group of students at an academy, and all they do is train to survive the call, because in general the call is actually like 3 minutes long, but if you get called to the fairy world, it could last for hours and days, and you are just doing anything you can to survive. So it's really interesting, because we see these kids as they are training to survive, but then as each person gets called, we actually see them trying to survive in the fairy world, and how different it is for each one of them, and it is so gruesome and gory, and these Fae are brutal, and that is exactly how I believe Fae are. I don't think we should be falling in love with them. They are brutal creatures, and this was exactly how I love to see them portrayed. But the calls were so fascinating, and I love that we get to see the actual like apocalyptic world, but also when they're fighting for survival. It was such a cool, unique story, and this is also a series which I'm intrigued to continue on, of course, because I loved the first one so much. I just also love that we get to see an academy setting where it's literally not about school, it's just about training, which is so much fun, and I'm interested to see where the sequel goes, because I honestly have no idea. But this one was definitely a pleasant surprise for me this year, and somehow ended up on my top 10, even though I did not expect it to. Coming in at number 8, I have The Island by Adrian McKenty. This is a super fast-paced thriller about a family who goes on a vacation in Australia. Now, their dad is there for some conference, so the kids are quite bored. They're not really getting to do anything fun until one day they hear about this island that they can go visit, and it's kind of a secluded island where they have been told that they can see many, many animals there. So this family takes a trip and a ferry over to this island. When they get there, something terrible happens, and the people on the island are not letting them leave alive. Like I said, so fast-paced. I could not put this down because I just wanted to see the next move happen. Now, the wife in this book, Heather, loved her. She was so awesome, so iconic, so strong and independent, and I think she was like the only character I really enjoyed the whole time, because let me tell you, there are 2 kids in this story that I could not stand, but the character development in this book really put it over the top for me, because if you can make me like a character that I hated so much at the beginning, you are doing something right. I have read other Adrian McKenty books after this one, but this one is definitely the top of the list, and I just think it was so much fun. You may not enjoy it as much as I did, but because I had so much fun reading it, it ended up making my top 10 list. Coming in at number 7, I have Love from Scratch by Caitlin Hill. This book I read earlier in the year, and I did a vlog on this one as well, and I fell in love with it. This is a young adult contemporary, but it is more of an older young adult. There is also a romance in here. So we follow a girl named Reese, and she is just out of high school, and she is moving from her southern state to LA to go be a marketing intern for this food company that also does like YouTube stuff, and they make videos all about their food. They're like kind of a famous YouTube channel. But then we also have Benny, who is the culinary intern here. So we have these 2 interns, and they end up competing because they realize at the end of the summer there is one job and the other is standing in the person's way to get the job at the end because they both want it. Now, Reese and Benny accidentally end up having their own segment on this YouTube channel because somebody is unable to do it, so they get thrown in at the last minute and they go viral, and everybody loves their chemistry. So they kind of have to pretend to have this romance and this banter that obviously ends up turning into reality. This one was so much fun, and it is the perfect foodie romance. I also like that it incorporated the kind of YouTube and social media aspect and how this brand has become a huge, huge thing. I liked seeing the different internship things, marketing versus culinary, and Benny and Reese were just really, really great characters. Benny is like one of the ultimate guys I have read in a book. He was so sweet and caring, and he realized he did not know what it was to be a woman in the industry, and he was very receptive to it and was willing to learn and how to change and fix things. I love the chemistry between them and the romance that developed. It was so much fun, but also all of the recipes that they made along the way were just amazing, and I love the descriptions. I have realized this year I love Caitlin Hill. This was her debut book. I have since read her sequel, which I also gave 5 stars, but love this one. Top 10 for sure. One of my favorite foodie romances. Coming in at number 6, we have The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. This was my first ever historical romance, and obviously it went over very well for me. So in this book, we follow the Duke of Ashbury, and he is a scarred hero, and often people tend to be scared of him. He's kind of reclusive, he doesn't like to leave the house, but he realizes he needs an heir, which means he needs a wife. When one day, Emma the seamstress shows up on his doorstep wearing a wedding gown, he realizes, all right, let's make a deal. You can be my wife. The only stipulations are that I need an heir, and then we will never see each other again. We can live in separate houses. We never have to look at each other. So commences this Duchess deal. Now this one was just so good. I loved the historical aspects of it, but it is just honestly twirling your hair, kicking your feet in the air, because they're like showing a shoulder or an ankle and you're just like, oh my gosh, that is so scandalous. And I loved it because it creates this tension that you just fall head over heels for, and you want more and more and more, and you're literally squealing. I also loved how Emma and the Duke helped each other kind of gain confidence and realize that they can be loved, that they aren't just scarred or they aren't just poor and lowly like they've been told their whole lives. I just really love them. I have since read all the books in the series that are out, and I have loved every one of them, but the Duke and Emma are definitely my favorite couple, and this was one of my favorite storylines, and maybe it's because it was the first one I read, but I cannot wait to dive more into historical romance because this really set the bar high. Now we are entering our top 5, and coming in at number 5 is Graveyard of Lost Children by Katrina Monroe. This is an adult horror book, and I picked this up a few months ago at Barnes & Noble because I knew nothing about it. At this point in my book career, it is rare to go into a bookstore and see a book and have never heard about it, and I really wanted to do that, and luckily, it worked out for me because I loved this book. So we follow first-time mother Olivia. Now, when Olivia was just a few months old, her mother actually tried to kill her. Now that Olivia is pregnant, she is thinking, oh, I'm not going to be like my own mother, I'm going to be a good mother, and those things aren't going to happen to me. When, as she is pregnant, she starts hearing voices from a well, and it is the same voices that her mother once heard. Oh my goodness. So this was crazy, fast-paced, and I could not put it down. So this also deals a lot with postpartum psychosis, which isn't talked about a lot, and it can be a very horrifying thing. So I liked that it was covered in a horror book, and I think it was done well. Obviously, I don't have any experience with that, but I would be curious to see if someone who has gone through that, what they would think. But I honestly think that this would be too difficult to read if you have gone through something like that. I realize that I do love pregnancy horror because of this book, so if you have any other recommendations, let me know. But the whole time Olivia is going through this, you are completely on her side because nobody understands what she's hearing or seeing, but we do, because as we're reading, we are hearing and seeing the same things that she is. So we're also wondering, are these things real, or are they a part of this mental illness? As she's losing her grip on reality, we are too, which made the reading process so much fun and also kind of unhinged, and I just loved it. I have read one other book so far by Katrina Monroe because I love this one so much, and it was a letdown, but I am holding out hope that she has other books that I will love because this one was it for me. Coming in at number 4, we have Where Darkness Blooms by Andrea Hanna. This is a young adult horror book, and besides the point, this has one of the most stunning covers I have seen. But this is a really fascinating book. We live in this very small town called Bishop that is surrounded by sunflowers, and unfortunately, it is not unusual for women to go missing in this small town. So we follow 4 teenagers who live together, and their moms have all gone missing within the last few years, so they are living together and they are really trying to figure out the mystery of what happened to their mothers when one day the sunflowers start whispering secrets to these girls. That's all you need to know, because isn't that intriguing enough? I loved this book so much. It was so creepy and spooky and atmospheric and honestly really, really unique. I could picture this town perfectly, and each of the 4 girls we follow, there are 2 girls and then 2 of them are twins, but they each had such a unique voice. I never once got confused with any of them, which is what I was worried about, because if you have a lot of characters you're following, they might tend to overlap, but no, these were so unique and individualized, and I really enjoyed reading from all of them. The way that this wrapped up was crazy and spooky, and honestly, I think this was a really, really unique story, and I wish more people would read it. It completely blew me away, and honestly, at one point when I first read it, it was my favorite book of the year. Obviously, some books have surpassed it since then, but it still managed to slide into top 4. Moving into the top 3, coming in at number 3, we have Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. Now, this is an adult thriller that is a wild ride. So we follow a mother who one night she is waiting up for her 18-year-old son to come home. When she looks out the window, she sees a strange man. She sees her son walk up to this man and proceed to kill him. The next morning she wakes up and it is the day before the murder. So as she is waking up each day, it is further and further and further back in time, and she is trying to figure out what she can do in the past to stop the future murder that her son is going to commit. This book is the most intelligent book I have ever read. I am still completely flabbergasted at the mind of Gillian McAllister and how she came up with this concept. Like, her mind is amazing. I am in awe of her, really. But this was so interesting. I really love the mother, and this was kind of one of those books that shows you how far would you go to save someone that you loved, and we got to see how far she would really go. But all of the mysteries that were unraveled as we went further and further back into the past were just out of left field. I never saw them coming, and they made me so surprised, and I gasped each and every reveal. There were a lot in here, and it was really fascinating, and I really liked how everything wrapped up. Nothing in here was boring. Nothing in here missed for me. I really enjoyed it, and it is something that I want to reread because I still think upon reread I would be completely shocked. Coming in at number 2 is a book I recently read, and that is I Loved You in Another Life by David Arnold, and this is a young adult contemporary romance. Now, last year, David Arnold was my favorite book of the year, and now he's at number 2, so I think I can accurately say he is one of my favorite authors of all time. But this book in particular is a story about love and grief and loss and healing, which I have come to realize are some of my favorite books. So we actually follow 2 characters. The first character we follow is named Evan. Now, Evan is planning on taking a gap year between high school and college, and he wants to go move to Alaska to work there. But unfortunately, his mother is diagnosed with an illness, and at home, it's just him, his mom, and his little brother. So Evan decides to use his gap year to stay home so he can take care of his little brother because he's really close with his mom and his brother. So he is staying at home, and on the other end of things, we have Shosh. Now, Shosh is an actress and a singer. She's a performer, and for college, she really wants to move with her older sister to LA so they can go to college together when unfortunately her sister is killed by a drunk driver. Now, Evan and Shosh seem like they're 2 completely different people, but there is one thing they have in common, and that is that they can hear a song no one else can hear. Now, throughout this story, this spans generations of time. So we follow Evan and Shosh, but we also follow love stories throughout decades and decades, across time, across the world. We travel to many different places, and we get to see many different couples throughout decades. Now, this book is one of those books when you hear about it, you're like, okay, how are all of those things going to connect? How are they all going to come together? And boy, once they connected, oh, my heart just broke in the best of ways. This book was so beautiful, and it really just warmed my heart. In my Goodreads review, I said, the easiest way I can explain how much I love this book is, simply put, it is the story of my soul. And I know that sounds dramatic, but if you have ever loved a book so much, you know exactly how I feel right now. It is so beautiful and unlike anything I have ever read. The love story that happens in this book is truly one of the most beautiful loves I have ever seen. I loved the healing that took place within this book, and how people can help you along the way for your healing journey, but ultimately it comes down to you and your choices. And I just love this. And you might be wondering, Keeley, you are gushing about this book. How is it not your number 1? It was very close, but I will also tell you, my number 1 book was also about grief and loss and love and healing. So let's move into number 1. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. My number 1 book of 2023 is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. So in this book, we follow a woman who works as a ghostwriter for a very famous romance author. Now, she is kind of contracted to write several more romance books, but she has recently just gotten out of a terrible relationship, and she is not feeling the romance anymore. So she goes to tell her editor she cannot meet this deadline because she cannot write about romance. And this editor, she comes to find out, is brand new. She goes in to tell him, and he's like, nope, you have to write this book. As she's leaving, she gets a call that her father has passed away. So now she has to go home to her hometown that she hasn't been to in a very long time. When she goes home, they are actually funeral directors, so she is in the funeral home with her family celebrating her dad's life when she hears a knock at the door. She opens the door and she sees the ghost of her editor. That's right, she can see ghosts. Oh my goodness. Talk about love, loss, healing, and grief. This book once again has it all. Yes, there is a little bit of romance in here, but for me, this story was mostly about healing, and when I read this book, it truly healed something in me that I didn't even know needed healing. This book is so special, and once again, tells the story of me and my soul and my journey through life, and how beautiful death can actually be. Because these characters, they are constantly surrounded by death, working in a funeral home, and I loved hearing them talk about it and how peaceful and beautiful it can actually be, although it is hurtful and sorrowful, but I also love the kind of twist where she can see ghosts because her dad could also see ghosts, so that's a kind of connection she has with her lost father now. But this was just so beautiful. I am hoping to reread it soon so I can annotate it, because I finished this book and I just started sobbing because it was over. I don't think I've ever done that with a book where I just completely cried because I could not believe that I had just finished reading this book. Loved it, loved it, loved it. All the hype in the world. So, so good. Ashley Poston, you have my heart. So those are my top 10 favorite books of 2023. Please let me know your favorite book of the year, and also if you've read any of these and you love them. I don't want to know if you didn't like them, only if you enjoyed them as well. But that is it for this video. If you have made it this far, go ahead and leave the pink heart emoji. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, all my social media links will be down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!